Welcome back to Long Delays Hobbies. Today I am going to be showing you how I painted up a Dunland Hill Tribesman. This miniature can also be used as a Wild Man of Dunland in an Isengard list. I have also seen some people play these miniatures as ruffians in a Sharky's Rogues list. So regardless of how you want to play this miniature, let's get started. So we're going to start by basing his tunic in brown, and for that we're going to use Rhinox hide. And don't forget to go all the way around the miniature looking for those cracks and crevices where that tunic covers up. We're also going to use Rhinox hide to base coat the straps of cloth that are covering his wrists. Next up we're going to use Corvus Black to base coat his shirt. And now we're going to paint the straps around his waist, and to do that we're going to use Thondia Brown, which is a slightly lighter brown than the brown we used to paint his tunic. And now we're going to use Mournfang Brown Air to paint those feathers that are in different places throughout the model. There are some at the top of his tunic. There are also some in the straps around his legs and arms. We're going to paint up his flesh using Bugman's Glow. Don't forget to go around the back of the miniature so you can paint his big muscly arms. It's easy to miss those if you're just looking at the model from the front. And I base coated the flames with Gray Seer. I wanted to make sure that in a later stage when I go over these with my wash paints that these flames really pop. So in order to paint the shield of the miniature, I used Dryad Bark. I also used Dryad Bark to paint the staff of the torch. And next up I used Tibetan Black to paint the shoes and the hair of the miniature. And finally, for the last step, I used Rakarth Flesh to paint up the straps of the torch. And with those base coats done, we're ready to wash the majority of the miniature in Agrex Earthshade. So we're going to wash the shield, the tunic, the feathery section, the staff of the torch. All of them we're going to wash down in Agrex Earthshade because most of this model is brown. What a shocker. Don't forget to wash those straps too, just to make them look worn and dirty. And next up, we're going to wash down his skin in some Reikland Flesh Shade. And with that, the model is already done washing. That was quick. And so we're going to begin highlighting. So we're going to start with some Doombull Brown. We're going to use that to highlight up all of the Rhinox hide sections of the miniature. Next, we're going to go over all the parts of the miniature that we base coated in Corvus Black and Abaddon Black and highlight those with Eshin Gray. So that will be his shirt, his hair, his boots, and the long strap coming out of the back of the model. And we're going to highlight his skin with some Cadian Flesh Tone. This is always a little bit tricky, but just go for his eyebrows, nose, cheekbones, the top of his forehead, and his knuckles. And you can try to pick out his musculature as well in his arms. And so to make the feathers stand out just a little bit more, I used Scrag Brown to just go and pick out several of the feathers. I didn't pick out every single feather, but I painted maybe half of them with just a little touch of Scrag Brown. I also used Scrag Brown to highlight the Mournfang Brown painted straps. Now I wanted to paint some wood grain texture on the shield. I used Gorthor Brown to carefully go over some of the grain that was on that shield. If you make any mistakes here, just remember you can go back over them with Dryad Bark and just kind of reset. I also used Gorthor Brown to highlight up the torch handle and the belt as well. Now for the fun part, we're going to use Army Painter speed paints to paint up the flame on the torch that the Hill Tribesman is holding. I'm a big fan of these speed paints overall, but just keep in mind you do have to let them dry for about an hour before you move on to the next step. Otherwise you risk reactivating the previous layer. So we're going to begin by basing the entirety of the flame section with some Zealot Yellow. The Citadel alternative for this would be Bad Moon Yellow. After that's dry, we're going to use Fire Giant Orange to paint up about 70% of what we just painted. You could use Magmadroth Flame if you're using Citadel contrast paints. We're going to follow that up with Slaughter Red. Again, painting up about 70% of the Fire Giant Orange that we just painted. You could use Blood Angels Red if you're using Citadel contrast. We're going to follow that up with some Blood Red, or Flesh Tearers Red if you're using Citadel contrast. And finally, we're going to use Corvus Black Air just to pick out the very tips of the flames that we just painted to give the illusion of smoke just forming on the tips. And with some basing, we can now call this model completed. I think the flames really do a lot to sell this model. Personally, I'm going to be putting flames on as many of these models as I can, regardless of what the rules say. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any questions about how I painted him, please feel free to leave those questions in the comment section below. And if it's not too much of a hassle, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe on your way out. But most importantly, don't forget to have a great day. Take care.